And now we're joined by Macon Water Authority Chairman candidate Tom Ellington. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what it is that you think is most important for voters to know about you?
Sure. So I have been a Macon resident since 2004. I came here to teach at Wesleyan College, which is the job that I still do today. I served 2 terms on the Macon City Council just prior to consolidation, chairing the Appropriations Committee in that 2nd term, so I've done a lot with finance. And I've been active in the community since then, serving on a number of boards, including the Macon-Bibb County Land Bank Authority. In 2019, 2020, I took a sabbatical, went to Harvard, and did a Master in Public Administration degree at the Kennedy School. And while I was there, I actually worked with groups in Flint, Michigan, who were helping with recovery from the water crisis there. So I feel like I have the leadership background, I have the experience, I have the financial knowledge, and basically the entire package necessary to lead an organization like the Macon Water Authority.
And you kind of segued right into my next question. So why is it that you do want to serve as chairman of the authority?
Well, the authority has some enormous challenges ahead, and it's going to take strong leadership to meet those challenges. And I feel like I'm the person who can provide that leadership. So in some ways, MWA has some great foundations. So the water system itself, with the water treatment plant that was built after the 1994 flood, that's a great strength of the organization. But we also have aging infrastructure. The MWA has taken over the stormwater management system, and parts of that are over 100 years old. The way the stormwater management program was rolled out has been not great. I think Dwight Jones talked about that at Lake Wildwood. And so that needs revisiting to make sure that that's fair, that's transparent. But that's not the only infrastructure issue we have to deal with. If it were, that would be plenty. But we also have a sanitary sewer system that has major spills from time to time. And we're going to need to look at what we can do about that. So on October 6th of last year, there were actually 6 major sewage spills in one day. And you probably remember October 6th, although you may not have marked that date in your mind, because basically the bottom fell out of the sky and there were inches and inches of rain. That infiltrated the sanitary sewer system and just overwhelmed it in 6 locations. It was basically above peak capacity with that rainwater coming in. So that got handled for that day. But we can't count on October 6th being an anomaly. We're in an age where we're going to have more and more severe weather events, and we need to basically future-proof the system.
Should the Macon Water Authority have taken over stormwater management, and why?
Somebody has to do it. And a lot of times in municipal governments, it gets neglected because you can ignore stormwater for a while until it forces you not to ignore it. And when somebody's basement doesn't flood when it rains one day, nobody thinks, oh man, somebody's doing a great job. So if the system works well, it's kind of invisible. But it also, stormwater management fits in with the rest of MWA's mission because it has a lot to do with water quality. When we're drawing from the Okmulgee, drawing water up to the reservoir, if that river's too silted up, that's a problem. And so it fits in neatly with the rest of MWA's mission, I think, and placing it there ensures that it's not going to be neglected.
Now, considering you mentioned Lake Wildwood meeting, and there's been some kind of backlash to the authority in some areas from pastors and business owners, industrial representatives, and even ratepayers about the stormwater management. So how would you explain that to the ratepayers and why the fees are necessary for the service?
Well, I think that we need to revisit how the fees are structured. And what I've seen is other water utilities that have rolled out stormwater management fees frequently have to go back and take a second crack at getting it right. I've heard from pastors who are getting hundreds of dollars in billing for small churches just based on their impervious surface area, and what they're saying is that this is potentially an existential threat for them. You know, the point of the fee is to fund the system. The point of the fee is not to cause pain and force institutions into insolvency. So I've certainly heard individual homeowners who are unhappy with the $4.99 a month. But I think the largest pain is being felt by churches and some nonprofits. So we have to revisit how that's structured, what kinds of exemptions are available, and how much those exemptions are. There's a lot of creative things you can do with things like putting in rain gardens and other mitigation factors in order to basically cut people a break on those fees.
You mentioned some of the issues that the authority is facing, but what do you think the biggest challenge is, and how would you solve that?
I think the biggest challenge is aging infrastructure, although staffing is a close second behind that. You know, MWA is competing with a lot of other institutions in a labor market where people have choices about where to work. And you want people who are smart, who are well qualified, who know what they're doing to do those jobs. So that's an issue, but we have literally hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure work that's been identified that needs to be done. Now that can't all be done at once. If you gave us a bank account with $1 billion in it tomorrow, it's not like we could just start digging and get everything fixed this year. So a lot of that work is going to involve identifying most likely failure points, prioritizing them, and basically staging the work in a way that's logical and causes the least disruption to people's lives.
Now, what new idea or policy or change would you advocate for on the authority if you're elected?
Well, one thing that's very specific that I would look at based on work that other water utilities are doing is using AI machine learning to analyze our systems and basically try to identify likely failure points. Other places have had success with that. And if you do that well, you avoid failures and you also save money because it's a lot easier to be preventive than to be reactive.
Now, as part of our research on the candidates, we've been doing background checks and such. And as of April 19th, the Macon-Bibb County Tax Commissioner's website shows that you owe nearly $1,500 in back taxes. And although your property tax is current, it shows that you have not paid the solid waste fees for 2020, 2021, and this year. Can you explain that?
I will get with them, but that's the first that I'm hearing about that, and I am getting my mail regularly. I have checks where I have paid the $300, so I think that's a miscommunication on their part. And certainly, you know, the property tax comes straight out of escrow. I've got a mortgage on that, but I pay my bills when they come.
Sure. This is not the property tax per se, but it's that solid waste
fee.
Right,
no, I understand.
So could that have been when you were on your sabbatical possibly, or something you just need to check into?
It's something I need to check into, and $1,500 is a lot because that's what, a $300 yearly fee?
It shows that, you know, it shows as back taxes,
Yeah.
but I checked with them and they said that, you know, there's a difference in the solid waste and the property taxes,
Right.
which you are current on.
Right.
So, okay, we'll check on that. And
I mean, that would be 5 years, and I certainly have not gone 5 years without writing that check. It pains me every time because I thought the monthly system was better, but
Sure.
but no, that's incorrect.
Okay. All right. And you've been in public life
Yes.
a while. So what do you think that the public doesn't know or understand about you at this point?
I mean, I've been in public life for a while, but I have not been very much in the spotlight lately. So I think that a lot of the work that I've done is kind of under the radar. Being on the Land Bank Authority is not the position of greatest prominence. Some people follow that very closely, but other people aren't going to think about that at all. What I hope people know about me is that I'm committed to service, and I'm committed not just in holding formal positions, but in getting together with people, talking to them in their neighborhoods, doing work with them. I was at a neighborhood cleanup a few weeks ago, and one thing that I've learned in public life is that there are a ton of people who don't necessarily hold a formal position, but do a lot of good. And this community would be far, far poorer and much worse off if they weren't doing the work that they're doing. So anything I can do to support that, I'm committed to because I enjoy it and I think it's valuable.
And what makes you the best candidate in this race? And tell the voters why they should choose you over your opponents.
Well, I think that I have the experience as a leader. I have experience with bringing people together who are not necessarily incongruence politically. So I'm a bridge builder and a coalition maker. I have the financial experience that's necessary for a large, complex organization like the Macon Water Authority. And I have some experience working specifically with water, with that issue that I talked about in Flint. I was on the ground in Flint in 2019, which is after the worst of the crisis. But I came to appreciate how much these utilities mean for community. So when we're talking about the Water Authority, it's economic development, it's public health, but it's also community. And what I saw in Flint is the aftermath of what happens when that goes away. So you can replace pipes if you have money. That's relatively trivial. But rebuilding trust after that's been broken, that is extraordinarily difficult.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ellington, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We have an update for you on the question we asked Tom Ellington concerning him being nearly $1,500 in arrears in his taxes. Well, he had it cleared up within a couple of hours of our interview. It turns out it was a clerical error. He was actually being billed solid waste fees for 4 units instead of 1.